Hey guys, it's Issa right here. And today I'm going to be interviewing a very interesting woman, and that woman so happens to be my mom.
Great.
So my mom has been giving back to her community for over 14 years. Um, she's been working with First Nations across Canada, and she helps with like economic development. So she has studied Aboriginal law and international business development, and she's traveled to many countries to work on different community projects. And for further ado, this is my mom, and I'm going to be introducing her and asking her some questions practically. So my mom grew up on a reservation in Canada, so I'm just going to ask her a few questions about what she does and all that. So, mom, how was it like growing up on the reservation?
It was very interesting. I grew up on a reservation until I was around your age, and we moved off.
I'm 14, guys. Just know.
And went to an everyday school, almost like a homeschool, smaller school environment. In that reservation conditions, depending on location, can be challenging at times. The old school approach of still having outhouses, so there was no running plumbing in the home. So when it's 20 below outside, having to walk in the snow, which you would not know about, huh? In that, there's a lot of hands-on time with working with elders, so that you're understanding your culture, preservation of some language, and also just an all-around family approach to raising a community.
Okay. So, what do you do now to help Native people like you?
Well, I mean, I studied Aboriginal law, and I have also am part of the Canadian Executive Service Organization, and with that, I give back. Growing up in that environment and understanding the challenges as a youth, I felt that it was important for me to get involved in assisting to make sure that on reservation living is better. There's a huge housing shortage. I mean, so you have 3 or 4 families living in the same home. And so one of my specialties was housing, and so I created my own business, kind of like my own niche, to start giving back. And so I assist with them getting the funding to start economic development projects. So whether it's clinics or schooling funding, or funding for housing projects, or funding for anything that is needed on the reserve lands so that people can live a better life, I assist First Nations across Canada doing that.
Okay. Is it easy or hard with what you do with First Nations?
I don't necessarily know if it's hard. I feel like every position has its challenges. So I would say that making sure that everybody's on the same page for the greater goal is always hard, whether you're working with chief and council or whether you're working in today's world in corporate America. So I feel like I face the same challenges. They are at a deficit, so they have a need. And so therefore, anything that I can do to come to the table and assist them, I'm willing to do. And so sometimes that's long hours and a lot of trips. But the payoff is seeing a program that we set up succeed, or having a school that's developed that children are able to learn about their heritage along with just your everyday K through 12 education, or being able to hand over a family that's never had their own home their keys to their brand new built home. So there's so many benefits that even if there were challenges, I really don't ever see them.
So, from all your answers, I'm guessing you enjoy your job.
I do. I enjoy my job.
Okay. Have you ever shared your story except for like now with me talking to you?
No, not really. I think that what I've actually learned from this experience with you is that it's important for me to share the things that I experienced when I was younger. Also, to educate you on the things that I felt like I should have looked more into at your age. When you grow up on the reserve, you tend to take for granted the fact that you can reach out to an elder or reach out to someone that is like you and really understand your culture. But once you move off the reserve, you're surrounded by everyone else. And so therefore you start to adapt to what everyone else is doing. And so now at my age and having you, you'll know over the last couple of years, we've attended powwows, we've been a part of the Assembly First Nation Indigenous Run. I've educated you on the N7 products, which talks about our culture. And now I'm understanding the importance that if I do not educate you, therefore you won't educate your children, and then there's a lost generation. So that's really why I'm sitting here with you now and able to open up about some of the things that I experienced when I was younger.
Okay. Next question. What was it like leaving the reservation?
It can be a difficult task. A lot of people don't want to leave that sense of home, that sense of community. So when you decide to move off, unfortunately, like anything, if you're part of a huge group and you decide to be different, sometimes people can look at you a certain type of way and say that you're different or that you left, and so they kind of shun you a bit. But I will say that there is a huge support system for young youth that want to leave and want to go off to college or want to go off to so that they can, educate themselves and bring it back to the reserve. And so in the beginning, it was a bit difficult for myself because I had to adjust to a different school setting where instead of being a majority, I went to being a minority. And so therefore there's challenges with that when I look around the classroom and no one looks like me or nobody exactly understands my culture. Also in saying that, I mean, going to a college in the city and then even moving here to Kansas City, it was a challenge for me because I really wanted people to understand who Nina was as a person. And so even though I even encourage you to make sure that people understand that it's not just one heritage or two heritages and there's something to be proud of. So if one thing it did make me do is appreciate where I came from. So I like that aspect of it.
Okay. Thank you for your response. Have you ever talked with the tribal leader? Because you work with First Nations, and I'm guessing you talked to like the tribal leaders. Has it ever been challenging or really challenging with one of the tribal leaders that you would like to share?
Well, I would say I work with them on a regular basis because I work across Canada with the Aboriginal First Nation people. So I'm dealing with chief and council. It's always difficult when you're dealing with things like a home, like homes for their people, for their members. And so when you're talking about things like food, shelter, these are the necessities of life. And so therefore people can get very passionate about those things. So when you're saying, hey, we have a housing list of 300 families that need something, and you're only able to get them funding for 100, they can become very upset, like, why can't we get more? We need to do more. But it's getting them to understand the concept. One of my specialties is being able to explain things and get them to understand that we can come up with a plan that long term will be beneficial. And so I wouldn't say that it's challenging, it's just more of getting them to understand that it's not the right now that we have to think about. We have to be able to plan 5 or 10 years out. So as the reserve grows or as your members grow, that we're able to accommodate those type of things that are needed, whether it's education or housing or clinics or hospitals and things like that. So I wouldn't say that I have one particular situation. I will say though, working with First Nations is they're really about developing relationships. So it's not like, hey, I need you to do this, I pay you and that's it. No, it's how do we build a relationship so that we can continue to do more things. And I've had my business since 2005, and I've never had to advertise. It's always been word of mouth that I do good work because I do it with a passion to help my own people.
Okay, this is a really important question. Do you speak Moosmik? And just so you guys know, Moosmik is the language that the Mi'kmaq tribe speaks.
It is. And this is one of the things that I'll go back to another question as far as moving off the reserve. When I was younger, it was something that was taught. And then when I moved off the reserve, I really didn't communicate or use Mi'kmaq anymore. So in stating that, unfortunately, I have limited knowledge, and looking forward to your videos to kind of jog this old memory of mine.
How many different tribes have you worked with, and how do they differ?
Well, I mean, being from Nova Scotia, I mean, I've worked with some tribal work there, but being a part of these bigger organizations, like I had said, like the Canadian Executive Service Corporation, I've had the ability to work with Cree Nation, Mi'kmaq, Algonquin, Seminole Nation. I've worked over the U.S. as well. So over 20 to 30 different types of tribal entities I've worked with. And how they differ is, I would say that everyone has their own type of traditions, but Native Canadians and or Aboriginal Canadians as a whole really preserve their traditions and culture. So I really don't want to focus on how they differ as far as just making sure that you understand that it's really important to them for people to, one, understand why they preserve their culture, why it's important for them to preserve their culture, and for people that are non-members to really respect that.
Okay. Well, guys, that's the end of the interview, and I just want to tell you guys, this picture that you see right here, this is the peninsula of Nova Scotia, and what you kind of see, like this it's a flag, the Nova Scotian flag. So yeah, that'll be the end of the video. And just in case you guys know, like, well, your name's Issa, but why is your name, differ? Well, it's Ipa'tu Tunnel. It means young man of strength. So while I was like looking at the Mi'kmaq language, I was like, oh, I like this name. Let's put the two words together and let's make a YouTube video. So I just thought that was pretty awesome. And yeah. Oh, word of the day. Well, actually, we'll have two words of the day. First word is eh. It means yes. It's just like E apostrophe E. Eh. And then the second word is mahwe. It means no. Mahwe. It's MOQWE. So someone will be like, oh, want to eat some broccoli? I'm like, mahwe. And they're like, you want some pizza? I'm like, eh. So yeah, guys, this is gonna be the end of the episode. Don't forget to leave a comment to make me better. Drop a like and even subscribe. And thank you guys.
Thank you.